Hi there, and welcome to this channel that we call Life's Journeys, or our stories about life's journeys. Um, we are just into uh, the beginning of 2023. I think it's January 4th today. And so we're at a new beginning for some people. Think of it this way. I think for most of us, we were looking to get out of the last couple of years. So just getting out of the 21, 22, and now into 23 has given some hope and some, I don't know, enthusiasm that maybe we hadn't felt before. And as we've moved into this phase, and I look back to the 2023, and I look back on the last several years that have certainly brought many challenges, I think, if not to all of us, to most of us. I start to see our life journey like a puzzle. Not an easy puzzle, okay? A really challenging puzzle. And we basically are here to put the pieces together and see how many pieces we can put together. And what are we learning during this time of trying to put the pieces of puzzle together about our particular life's journey. So I don't know if anybody would resonate with that, but that's the way I've started to see it. Yeah, we're all on a journey. We really don't know what our plan is. We think we do sometimes, but we don't. I definitely am on the side of believing that we do decide before we enter or reincarnate into the body that we have an agreement, we have a contract, and we kind of write the script, let's say, and of what we want to learn this time around, and the basics or the details of what this life is going to look like. And then we get here and completely forget, which it has to be that way, or I think it could be a bit crazy making if it wasn't. So I was thinking about this puzzle, and I was looking at my own experience. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today and is see if some of you maybe resonate with this on some level is my feeling emotionally unsafe. Now that can take on a zillion different meanings for each individual, or it won't mean anything. Hard to say. For me, it means a lot. It's huge. So I know I've mentioned before how I grew up in I think today would be called an emotionally abused household. Mostly this was my mother that was involved with this. And that set up a program, like a computer program, in me that got installed very early on in my childhood, and has pretty much run my life, so to speak, or definitely been a big component of how I've dealt with life and what my journey's been like up till this day. I mean, I think we never stop learning. I don't think it stops because we get older, or even if we're getting closer to leaving this planet. I just think it's always an opportunity to learn, and the opportunities can be challenging for sure. So when I talk about emotionally unsafe, this has showed up in so many weird ways, and I'm going to try my best to try to explain it so it can make some sense, and thinking that some of you might relate to this. In growing up, it was unsafe for me emotionally, not on a physical level. It's not like I grew up in a really rough neighborhood, or with drugs and threats and all of that. Quite the opposite. You know, I really grew up in the 50s and 60s, and um, so it was kind of like, what do I want to say? Not a lot of terror going on out there in any way. So, but the feeling emotionally unsafe was a huge part of my growing up. I didn't understand that at the time. And I know I've mentioned in some past videos about some of the emotional abuse was I had to be perfect, at least in my mother's eyes. And I did a video called My Sock is Down, and that was basically if we were visiting family, which we did often on Sundays, and I'm like 5, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, and my sock is down. So one sock kind of went down, and that my mother was humiliated by that, and was very abusive to me in that way. Like, oh my God, your sock is down. Look at you. How can you be there with your sock down? And that was kind of a pretty serious problem. So basically what happened to me is I grew up really not wanting to make any mistakes. And that's what really has driven my life forward. And when I say not making any mistakes, it's a huge, what do I want to call it, a huge canvas to have to deal with. If you were painting a picture, not going to make a mistake. So I would kind of try to plan my life, or really be very diligent about what I was doing in order not to get the consequences of my sock was down. So that definitely had a really negative impact during school, because I was so afraid to raise my hand or participate, because I was going to make a mistake and I'd be humiliated. So I just kind of barely got through school because I was terrorized during the whole time of going through school. It just covered every area of my life. So what happened through that, because I didn't want the consequences of being humiliated or making a mistake where somebody could see, is it even impacted in really weird ways. Like as an adult, I felt like I couldn't be caught without my makeup on and and the outfit put together, etc. So if a friend wanted to come over, or anybody knocked on my door and I was in my workout clothes or cleaning, or anyway not put together, I freaked. I would just freak. And if I let myself answer the door, which I most of the time didn't, but if I did, then I would be going through it for days about how awful that was. It just covers, it crosses every territory, from cooking, which I don't care for cooking that much. It's not my thing. But when I do cook, if I make a mistake or I don't think it came out perfect, then I go through the suffering. It's all suffering. That's what it is. It's all the suffering of it. And been getting, like I said, I don't think this stuff ever goes away. You just keep peeling the onion and peeling the onion. And I think many times, like, am I done with this yet? No, I'm not. And so just recently, I discovered that I feel unsafe. It's unsafe to be who I really am. Now that is huge, because it covers everything. So who I really am, just me, without the makeup, without the hair thing, without the outfit on, without the being appropriate, good manners, speaking when I should, not sounding dumb, not showing up, just not showing up perfect. Okay. And in that, what also resulted from that is I became very much a people pleaser. That was even in childhood. People pleaser for the reason not to have the consequences of being criticized or which was to me death, really. That's what it felt like, humiliated. So then I would just twist myself like a pretzel into pleasing people rather than considering my own needs. And so in the last many years, this has come up in interesting ways. I heard somebody speak not very long ago about what we have is these vibrations in us. For instance, a vibration of people pleasing is a great example I can use. And so I would attract then people that are people that or how do I want to say it, manipulative often, like my mother was, and kind of a personality that I would be, the kind of personality that I would really cave and be into my contorted ways to people please. And as these people, and oftentimes, maybe almost all the time, it was women. So interesting, my mother, and was like that. And I didn't understand it for a long, long time. I would be very uncomfortable at certain points in these relationships. In fact, most often, when I was involved with a person like this on that vibrational level, where they're who they are, and and their personality is that of someone I would people please. And at some point, I would just walk away. No explanation, nothing. Something would finally trigger it, and I'd think I can't do this anymore. And so I could just, end the relationship. In the more recent times, I've been able to actually see what's going on in the situation. Not so much ahead of time, not seeing it in advance, but definitely seeing it at a time before I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to walk away, it's going to end. But now I really saw that it was a two-way street. This other person would be doing their job, so to speak, of being in their manipulative and kind of personality way, the vibration that in a way attracted me, not on a positive level, to get into that people-pleasing scenario that I would get into. And again, it's suffering, it's crazy, but again, what did that say? It was, it's unsafe to be who I really am, so it would be unsafe to voice an opinion, for instance, that I knew was going to cause them to not agree with in a very strong way. That happened once with one of these people where I couldn't help but voice my opinion. It became a nightmare. I ended up apologizing, feeling terrible, like I was wrong, blah, blah, blah. And and finally, when I could look at that, I realized, wait a minute, I'm allowed space on this planet just like the other person, but I go into that mode instead of people pleasing because I feel so unsafe from the consequences. So it's always the consequence of to be who I really am that would stop me, or does and can still stop me in my tracks, because I have this program inside of me that is saying it's very unsafe for you to be who you are, because who you are is just not acceptable. It's not enough. If you need to please others. That's kind of not a very detailed maybe way to say it, but I think you probably get the picture. This stuff is really hard to put into language. I understand it very deeply within me, but the language of emotion, so to speak, or how to share something that I personally am going through, that I don't have a real good example of the opposite or other people. So, if you're like me, a lot of times when I'm listening on YouTube to somebody speak about their life journey, something will I was going to say trigger, but in the way it is, I'll resonate with it, and that can help me oftentimes see or their words can help me understand what I'm going through. So this programming that we have, like a computer program that gets installed, and I think I would say the majority of us, I think where this does begin is certainly in childhood. And, we come in to reincarnate, pick our parents. This is what I believe and follow. And for a purpose, for a reason that we want to learn things. We want to put the puzzle pieces together to see, okay, what is it that I'm going to learn this time around, and what am I gonna, how close will I get to completing this puzzle? So with these programs, like I'm calling them, they can go very, very deep, and with a wide variety of ways they show up. For me, this feeling of unsafe emotionally, or called emotionally unsafe is how I call it. This idea of emotionally unsafe had not come to me for a very, very long time. I didn't connect the dots. I wasn't putting the puzzle pieces together. I didn't realize or see that my life was being guided, so to speak, through this program of emotionally unsafe. I had it all separated into fragments in my mind. So even though I understood very well, and I'd been to tons of therapies, workshops, personal development, you name it, trying to work through this whole childhood stuff, and yet I hadn't put together this sense of emotionally unsafe. I just saw it as trying to push through things, to push through. I had a mantra that said, when I was a child, and that I would prove I'm not who they say I am. I'll prove I'm not who they say I am. So all the negativity that they said about me, I had this thought in my mind, or this goal, I think really, that I was going to get out in the world and prove I'm not who they say I am. And I kind of did that on some level. But it was all superficial, because I shouldn't say it was all superficial. I tend to do that in extremes. A good amount of it was probably superficial, but it served me at the time. I think it was so overwhelming, it was just too much for me to deal with, except a little bite at a time, in terms of how impacted and affected my life was by this initially growing up in this, I think today would be called emotionally abusive home. And I even tend not to want to say that, because I don't know why, because, was it that bad? Since I tend to adapt and cope with things, I probably wondered, am I exaggerating it? Was it really as bad as I think now, or am I, over dramatizing it? So, my point today, if I haven't gotten too far off on this random way of speaking about this, is we all have stuff that we're dealing with that we don't really see through. Now, for me, as an example, as I begin to see through and peel the onion even more on this unsafe, being emotionally unsafe, I'm able now to start to see a light at the end of the tunnel, that I can begin to release or let go of this computer program, uninstall it, so to speak. And I do that by becoming aware of now all these times, these every way that I become, or I'm aware that I'm feeling emotionally unsafe. And so the more that these things come up to help me feel, in a way to help me feel emotionally unsafe, then the more I'm getting closer to releasing or uninstalling that program so that it's not a big driver or driving force in my life, and heading more toward the freedom, really, of not having to carry around that burden of feeling emotionally unsafe. It's just a feeling of, it's not true. What happens is I start to look through the lens of feeling emotionally unsafe at the world, and I'm distorting. The world is distorted. I'm not seeing what really is. I'm just seeing it from my state of mind. I'm seeing it from this unsafe thing. And like I said, it crosses all barriers. It crosses everything. It can be about the weather. It can be, certainly when the pandemic hit, this was a big one for me. And I think this started to break through the last pieces of this emotionally unsafe program, because I really got totally hooked into the fear. It triggered absolute unreal fear in me. And I think by that fear coming up so strong and so much impacting my life, I was able to start to look at all the ways that I react to certain things. And at the same time, I was emotionally very much involved with it. And even though it doesn't seem to have anything to, well, it was feeling like emotionally unsafe. Yeah. It was feeling that way because I really, I didn't have circumstances. I wasn't like a healthcare worker. I wasn't on the front lines of, in the hospital taking care of people. So the truth is, I was feeling emotionally unsafe, like I was on the front lines of this whole pandemic thing. And I got to the point where I thought, oh my God, if I walk outside and take a breath, I'm gonna get it. I mean, it was crazy. And I could even know at the time, I'm thinking, I think this is a little crazy, but I can't help it. So that's just another example of how things start to break down. I think that our guides or source or whatever you like to call it, if you have a guide that you feel, or and maybe in meditation, through meditation, you get guidance. I think for me, and I've always had guides from the time I was very young, I think for me, they have to keep trying in different ways. I think they're really good at it, to set up the circumstance for me to get. And probably they're setting up a whole bunch of circumstances that I don't really grasp, that I look back now and I think, oh, when that happened, I could have seen through that maybe. But we can only be and do or start from where we're at. So I just think it's an interesting conversation to have right now, given that we're at the very beginning of 2023. And I think we're all looking for a shift of some sort, change of, can we change to have the better life? Can we move toward empathy and compassion for others and be without the judgment of others? I think that's where a lot of us are wanting to head. I don't think we have an exact plan on how to do that, or even exactly know how to do that, but we know it's got to happen because we are so far off as humans, so far out of alignment for where we not only need to be, but I think would want to be. So I think now life or the universe is setting us up for the opportunity to see through our shit, to see why we operate in a certain way. And this is exactly why I feel that if I can get people to share their stories of their life journey with me, we can start helping others. We can open up and say, this is what I've seen, this is what I'm learning, or this is what I'm trying to learn. This is the vibration that's going on with me. This is what I'm bringing into my life. For people that are having issues with money, it's a vibrational thing that needs to be there for the time so that somebody can see what's underneath it, what's the very underneath belief program that's causing this, and the vibration keeps bringing in money issues rather than a normal way of being, so to speak. That's not really what I mean to say, but I think you get the idea. So it's an opportunity when we can share our stuff, really help one another look at our stuff from a place of caring and empathy and sisterhood, brotherhood. I don't know what to call it. But this is where I believe we can definitely help one another through our storytelling. We all have a variety of stories, and you know, it's interesting how I can listen to 5 people and kind of not completely resonate, understand what they're saying, and then I can listen to one person and it's like, oh, whoa, that's exactly what's going on for me, but they put it into words that are finally give me an opportunity to understand what's going on. So I hope that makes sense. So there you have it today. I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, and here we are at the beginning of 2023, and today is supposed to be a really, really challenging weather day where floods and high winds, and we're getting all this rain that we haven't been getting for a number of years as we're in major drought. And now all of a sudden, since really this maybe November, December, we've been getting a ton of rain now, too much rain, because the ground is saturated and mudslides and all of the floods and, you know, all of the not so good things from too much rain is going on. But today it's supposed to be very, very serious weather. We could we could lose power in certain areas. So some areas appear to be getting it worse than others. I think we're in an area where it's not going to be quite as bad, but who knows? We'll see what happens. So that's what's going on in my world today. So if you have liked this video, I'm going to ask you to hit like, and also ask you to hit subscribe. And I have my email, or the way to get in touch with me, on below this video. It's a link, and I would love to hear from you and have you share your story. I'm just looking for, I'm not looking for people that have this, oh my God, story. I'm looking for everyday people just like you and me to share our stories with others. And we all have them. We all are on this life journey. We all have different experiences, but much alike. When we really start getting to it, we realize we are much more alike than not alike. It's just a matter of these programs that we're carrying, this belief system that's going on, that definitely is actually made to be changed. What are we drawing to us that is no longer in our best interest? You know, that type of thing. So again, if this interests you, and I mean, we're at the beginning stages, I don't know where this is going to go, but I would love to hear from you. So check below to get my details of how to contact me. I promise I'll get back to you. Again, if you like this, please hit like, and I hope you'll hit subscribe as well. And I think that's about it for today. I'm looking outside. It's looking like maybe they're saying around 3 o'clock, which I'm close to that time. We're supposed to get hit with a biggie. So before I run out of Wi-Fi or whatever, I'll go ahead and end this and say thanks for listening. We'll see you the next time. You know, I have this clicker, and it must sound weird, where it clicks off my video for me so I don't have to put my finger on the screen. But I don't know, there's magic to do it. I have to click it a few times.